So hi, my name's Neven Dravinski, producer on UFC Undisputed 2010. Creative Fighter in the UFC Undisputed 2010 game went through a lot of improvements. One of the biggest things is the visual change that went through. In the 2009 product, we were very sort of regimented in how we allowed fighters to be created, and also in how the roster fighters were created. And this year we've gone with the take of actually picking moves a la carte from various disciplines. We allow you to say, create a move from one discipline, apply it to your fighter. You're literally placing moves per controller input per position. So things like all the Creative Fighter parts got touched. There's a lot more realism to the parts themselves. How we actually apply things like logos and tattoos. Last year was very menu intensive. We looked at the design of how people actually utilize the menus, stripped down a lot of the unnecessary aspects to it. So I think what's really cool about it is, since there is so much more depth and variety, it's really going to encourage a lot more kind of community discussion about how to create your fighter and actually see what other people are able to do in the game. The career mode in UFC Undisputed 2010 is actually going to be, as you mentioned, have a lot more investment, or you're going to have a more kind of personal attachment to your character. We've done things like added the addition of a fighter voice, for example. We recorded multiple voices of multiple sort of ethnicities that you can apply to your fighter. And going back to the idea of kind of emotional investment in your character, that fighter voice allows you to participate in kind of interviews, and we give you options in terms of creating rivalries, for example. You'll be in interviews or weigh-in cutscenes, for example. You'll be able to respect your opponent, disrespect your opponent, and these all have consequences which apply later on in your career. Disrespect your opponent, you might create more of a rivalry throughout the game. Again, there's a lot of things that went into the creation of the career mode that create a better sort of relation between you and your created fighter. So a lot of improvements went into the gameplay system for the 2010 product. The game plays a lot faster. It's not that we just sped up all the animations. We actually went down at a system level. We introduced the concept of the sways, the leans, the southpaw attacks. But then as a result, when I'm talking about going to a system level, like little things like taking a lot of the reactions, instead of making them animated reactions, we put them in our Havoc system. That means that the reactions are playing faster, they're in the engine, you're getting less control taken away from you as the player. It may seem inconsequential when you look at one animation, one transition, one pass, but when you take it as a sum of its parts, these are all necessary things that had to go into making the gameplay better. You'll see the collision systems much improved this year, and we had to redo that, simply because of adding all these new features. And the game plays a lot better this year. It plays faster. I mean, the game actually just looks that much better, and once people actually get the opportunity to play it, I think they'll be very surprised with how much we've been able to do within a year. The ground game has gone through extensive redesign this year. As you mentioned, we have flash submissions this year. That's one of the new additions to the game this year. We've redesigned kind of how we utilize the submission system. We have our kind of the shine system, which was one of two ways you could play the game last year. So we've done away with the mashing of the buttons for submission defense. This year it's all focused on rotations on the right stick on the shine. We give you the option to initiate and finish submissions via spinning on the right stick, as well as fighting off submissions. So it's a much more elegant way of kind of representing status of a submission, and last year we kind of saw that there was no real way to kind of indicate who was winning or losing in the game. Ground game has this concept of sub-positions that are in the game this year. Each position has a sub-position. You can posture up in a position, much like in real UFC fights, give yourself space, unload, and have fight-ending punches. So you can finish the fight from any position this year. You can rock an opponent, finish the fight. You can also change your submissions. You have multiple submissions per position based on altering your posture. So there's a lot more depth and variety to the ground game this year. And this is basically done so you're spending more time punching people in the face and less time worrying about blocking your transitions. The presentation in the UFC Undisputed 2010 game, I think, went through a complete overhaul. We introduced a new graphics package as the UFC moved to their new graphics package, and that really speaks to our kind of close working relationship with UFC. We're certainly able to get anything that makes their pay-per-view experience what it is, or their live shows what it is. We get access to their people, and that certainly makes its way into the game. Again, I always go back to that statement of we did things that we wanted to do. We did things because we wanted to, not because we had to, and that certainly carries through in every aspect of the game. I mean, from the visuals especially, because you can see that a direct comparison, that there's so much that went into this game that we really wanted to make sure we were making the best MMA game ever made. UFC Undisputed 2010 will be available May 25th on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, and coming out in the fall on PSP.